So right now, thank you so much, Carol. It looks like I'm in the middle of paradise. I'm next to the Pacific Ocean. Honestly, it's a beautiful day. There's blue skies, but there's also ash in the air. It smells like burning rubber. And my colleague and I, John Gittleson, the LA bureau chief, just went through the Palisades. We were able to get in there, of course, because we're pressed, but many people aren't yet able to even see their homes. They're relying on, images from a lot of our colleagues that we saw taking photographs or, doing broadcasting live, of course, from the area. And I'll just say I would say emotional right now. It's, very surreal to walk through and see that, the place has been as devastated as we've all been sort of describing through some of the stories and images we've seen on the TV right now. And, a lot of folks up there, of course, the great side of humanity, just helping out, supporting each other, handing out food, emergency service vehicles from all over the city, the state, the U.S. helping out.
In terms of what you're seeing, Sarah, is it total destruction, or are there still some structures that were spared, that were left standing, that seem like people can move back into, or is it just total devastation?
I would say it's quite a bit of devastation. The homes that have been burnt to the ground, again, it's just heartbreaking to see because there's a lot of chimneys that survived, maybe a white picket fence outside a home, but the home's leveled, burnt out cars. Every once in a while, you'll see an entire house that survived or a few shops in a row. There's a Chipotle I looked in the window of that's next to a Chase Bank and a number of other businesses that completely burnt to the ground that survived. And you can see in there that they moved the umbrellas indoors, for the outdoor seating. And there's a cloth that someone left who was obviously, wiping up things and when everyone left in a hurry. And for some reason, the Chipotle survived. So there's no rhyme or reason, it seems, in some cases for what's lasted through the fire and what hasn't.
You're there on the ground. I'm assuming yesterday you would not have been able to get there. Tell me, what has changed from yesterday in terms of access for you to actually see some things firsthand?
Well, as we know, very little containment still for the Palisades Fire, and of course the Eaton Fire is still raging strong.
Right.
We were not on the front lines of the fires, obviously where the firefighters are. It was described to us that they're absolutely exhausted. They are working triple time, and sometimes they're on 48-hour shifts. One man we met was handing out bags, and in it was chapstick because the wind and the fire is just so drying that the firefighters, they need food, they need many things, but they'll just rip open the bags for the chapstick because it's like such intense conditions. So again, plenty of areas, I think, where the fires are still burning and everyone's in full force. Some areas where the fires have passed through, like we walked through, that, we're able to get into. But again, no sense of really when families will be able to get back.
Yeah, and I guess the question that so many people have is what happens next and how long these families are going to be displaced, how long it takes for homes to be rebuilt, if they're even able to be rebuilt. More than 150,000 people remain under evacuation orders, Sarah. Tell us about the air quality, if any of these evacuation orders are being lifted, if people are able to go back to places that they were evacuated from because the situation has improved in other areas.
Definitely, there are areas, I think, where people obviously, areas that weren't burnt, where people as a precautionary measure were evacuated from are going back. But it's a giant question on my mind walking through the Palisades, for instance, today of where are these people whose homes were burnt, where are they right now, and what decisions will they have to make in the coming days? I think something really interesting, Rick Caruso, a local developer, mentioned in some interviews is that a lot of the homes in the Palisades were generational homes passed down. Mm-hmm. So these people have lived there for generations, and now they'll have to make some hard decisions about whether to rebuild, whether to relocate. It's just coming, lots of hard questions.
Yeah,